And we are live with the Free Culture Sports Show. We are going to do something a little bit different than anything that we've done before. We did something similar once for the World Cup final, but we are going to preview very well, not briefly actually, for about the next 25 minutes or so. We're going to preview the Liverpool West Ham game, and then we are going to do the halftime show and a post-game show as well. I don't know. Do you have NBC on right now, Evan, by chance?
My TV was not turned on to cable, and I'm not in a room with a TV, so
Uh,
I cannot tell.
okay. So, well, yeah. So I guess you'll have to rectify that before we actually get going, or I guess we could just leave it running in there. But the reason I ask is because we've got two different NBCs in Baltimore. They're both WBAL, but there's WBAL digital, and then there's WBAL standard, and they don't show the same thing. It's not like a standard def version the of NBC. They both have the NBC logo, and actually, so like it's news on one, and it's this thing called Lazy Town on the other. And this Lazy Town thing is kind of creepy. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Have you ever
Is
seen
that
this?
is that supposed to be the kids? Is that a kids show?
Yeah, it's a kids show.
Yeah, kids shows these days are very creepy. That
I
would
mean,
definitely. So if it's the one I'm thinking of,
so there's like some people that are obviously claymation, and then some people that are obviously not claymation. And then there's this one dude that I think is like half claymation and half a real person. He's like the bad guy. He kind of looks like Elvis, and it's like a guy with like I don't. It's not a mask. It's like with like kind of I guess like what they do with Star Trek and stuff, and they sort of put like with Worf and stuff. They sort of put like skin type looking things on him. So he looks like I don't know. It's just weird. It would be kind of weird without that guy, but that guy in particular is creepy. But I guess he's the bad guy, so it's okay if he's creepy.
doesn't he have a mustache or something too?
No, the good guy has a
Oh, the
mustache.
good guy has the mustache.
Yeah, it's a like kind of it's a very thin mustache. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I don't know which channel it's going to be on. That's why I was just flipping through and
It's probably going to be on that one.
right.
Um,
That's kind of what I assumed. But so anyway, uh, I had it on and I was like, this is definitely worth mentioning. So I mentioned it. I don't
yeah.
know. I guess people can judge for themselves.
Okay.
Interestingly, it is like a soccer slash football themed show. It's
Huh.
called the Lazy Cup, and I don't know. I don't have the sound on, so I don't really know what's going on. Except the bad guy is wearing like a purple like warm up suit and orange has an orange ball,
Yeah.
and then the regular folk have a ball too, and I don't know what exactly is happening, but I don't know if this is a rerun or like if it was like
Well,
World Cup that they ran it initially or what.
it looks like you can watch several of their episodes online on YouTube. So for those of y'all who are curious, you can look them up. This, I think, is an episode from 2013, based off of
Interesting.
what IMDb is telling me.
All right. Yeah, so maybe it was in prep for the World Cup. I don't know. Maybe they just were like, "Oh, we should do this." Maybe it was during the Gold Cup. I
Or
really
the
don't know.
Confederations Cup.
Yeah, I don't know. Which was a bigger draw in the U.S., the Confederations Cup or the Gold Cup? I don't really know. I would have assumed actually the Gold Cup, considering the U.S. played in it.
Yeah, I would have too, but I mean the Brazil and Spain and all those
Yeah.
and it was a prep for the World Cup. So I don't know. I think with the American soccer fans, like those who are living in America and cheer for the United
Right.
States solely, I think the Gold Cup. But for all of those who are, first or second, uh, what's the word? Not degree immigrants. What do they call those?
generation.
The first and second generation immigrants that cheer for the other countries, they probably cared a lot more about the Confederation Cup.
Fair enough. I just turned this off because I'm going to be distracted by it if I leave it on. So I'll just check in at 12:30 and 12:30 Eastern and keep the game on. So what was supposed to be the intro before the craziness of Lazy Town was to mention that we're still looking for some people to help us out with the show. So this is going to count as our West Ham show. We're not going to look for a West Ham supporter. And I've gotten some feedback on Google Plus about these, but nothing is other than Crystal Palace. We don't have a date set for anything. So right now we're still looking for Aston Villa, Burnley, Everton, Hull, Leicester, Manchester City, Newcastle, QPR, Southampton, Stoke, Sunderland, Swansea, and West Brom. So our next episode, I think, is going to be our Southampton episode, and that's going to be on October 4th. But if we can't work out the time with the guy who supports Southampton, then we'll do the Burnley, Leicester, QPR trifecta and try to get the Southampton guy on for the next one. Now, unlike our previous guests, the Southampton guy actually has a Southampton blog, so it'll be interesting to see, what sorts of things that he can bring to the table that, just the random supporter can't. I don't know much about him other than he's got a blog and he said he would help us out. So
cool.
We'll see what happens with that. But for today, the matter on the agenda is the LFC West Ham game. And so we can talk about some of this other stuff here at the end, but Liverpool is in 8th place right now, which I think is a little bit lower than people were expecting. But I think people get really caught up in this early season stuff, like, oh, Manchester United is not going to finish in the top 4. Well, I mean, how many points have they dropped? And how many points are available?
Yeah.
I mean, 38 times 3, that's a lot of points.
That is a ton of points that nobody ever gets close to.
Yeah, that's 114 points. Well, in Spain, they get close to it sometimes. I mean, like, Barcelona had 100 points or so.
Yeah.
A couple seasons ago. But yeah, in England, no one gets close to it. So.
Has there been 100 points? I know Arsenal had that season where they didn't lose a game, but I don't remember how many points.
I think Chelsea actually has the record for the most number of points, and it was like 95 or 96. Yeah, so the Invincibles had a lot of draws that season.
Yeah, they just found ways not to lose.
Right, exactly. So what's been going on with LFC? I mean, we've kind of briefly mentioned them when we've talked about the other clubs, but 8th place is not really where they expected to be. And also disappointing, I mean, they got the win, but disappointing performance in the Champions League as well.
I still think that they got a whole lot of new pieces and they're searching for, I guess, continuity and just still trying to figure each other out with the likes of adding like Markovic to the team, who I think could be a great addition down the wing, but he just hasn't had the experience to play with the rest of the team like they've had past season. I think the loss of Suarez changed a lot of their kind of dynamics. Before they added Balotelli, when Sturridge was up top by himself, the team it struggled to get the ball to him. He seemed like he was playing a game by himself, all alone up top, and they just couldn't really get him the ball or feed off that. Now that they've got Balotelli, Sturridge gets injured, so they're kind of back to the same situation they were beforehand, where they don't have this two-striker system that they're used to playing with, and they've got to just adapt and change to that. Another thing is, especially in the Aston Villa game, is it was very apparent that coming out of the midfield and the striker's position, they don't have people who can, beat somebody one-on-one and just take a quick shot, and who knows what happens. I'm thinking of Chelsea's like Hazard, Man U's Di Maria, players like that who I would just be scared to see in a one-on-one situation because they're going to make something happen. Liverpool doesn't have those players right now, or at least they haven't made known that they can do that. That they have that kind of ability. Um, they are more of a let's pass the ball around and kind of pass around the defense, which is fine. But if they're parking the bus, that's a lot harder to do, and that was very evident against Aston Villa last week. And so I think that's what teams are going to be doing from now on is if they're not going out for the 3 points, if they just want a point here or there to tie Liverpool, they're going to sit back and hope something happens where they can maybe steal the win. But they're going to, be fine sitting back and playing defense.
Now, he's a midfielder or a winger, but what about Raheem Sterling?
I mean, he is one of those players. Him and Sturridge, I think, were the only two that I would really say before Balotelli came in that kind of had that ability. The rest of the players are very good at what they do, but as far as taking somebody on and getting a shot off, that's not their skill set. They've needed those players like Henderson, Gerrard, Coutinho, all of those players helped set up Sturridge, Suarez, Sterling last season. And they're not the goal scorers. They're not the chance creators for themselves. They create chances for other players. And until they can find some players who can actually create chances for themselves, parking the bus is the strategy that we're going to see. I think West Ham is probably going to do that today. Be interested to see if they commit to the attack early and then decide to settle back if they can't get a quick goal. I can't even remember. Is the game at Anfield or is it at West Ham this week?
That I do not know. I will figure that out while you continue talking.
Hey, I'm looking on my list here, and it's saying that Jordan Henderson is away. So Liverpool is away at West Ham. So,
On your fantasy list?
yes. So a team that's, on the road, at home against Liverpool may, try to attack more because they're at home and maybe leave themselves vulnerable to a counterattack. We don't know. We'll watch and find out.
Yeah, so that's a good time to transition a little bit over to West Ham, and we can come back and talk about some of the LFC stuff. But I want to make sure before the game starts that we talk a little bit about West Ham. Speaking of Park the Bus, they brought in Alex Song, and while just a big name in general, it sort of basically they have like three holding midfielders that are like, should be starters on a team of West Ham's quality. So they're sort of built not to attack. Now they've got some players that can attack, but it's just who is Alex Song going to unseat? Mark Noble is sort of, I don't know if he's the captain, but he's been a West Ham tried and true player for a bit. So I'm not real sure. What are your thoughts on how West Ham might line up?
I've never really thought of them as an attacking team, but I've thought that they've had, just midfielders who kind of fit into their role and do their own thing. But if they're bringing in more, defensive midfielders, that's interesting. I know Stuart Downing used to be at Liverpool. He's not really a defensive midfielder, so he's kind of out of that mold. But Kevin Nolan, now they've got Alex Song. Some of their other.
Downing is a wide player.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So I think that it's three holding like center midfielders. So
right.
One of them is if they play a 4-4-2, one of those is getting dropped. So maybe they play still a 4-4-2, but with three holdings and one attacking or something. But then can Downing play the attacking role through the middle or?
He did. He has in the past. It was kind of what is your role at Liverpool? Like, are you that kind of middle attack or are you a winger? And he went back and forth, and they eventually just decided, okay, you're just going to stay, on the side before they shipped him off. Uh, I don't know who they play up top. I know they have Andy Carroll, who's also from Liverpool, but I don't know who else they play up top. I'm looking at games played or games started over here. It looks like they've gone back and forth. Andy Carroll has been injured or just out. Um, and other than that, it looks like they've been sharing around who starts up top. They have three forwards with three starts and two forwards with two starts. Um, and those two forwards that only started twice also subbed in. So I don't think they really know what they're doing yet as far as formation wise, and who's going to fit where. That may be due to injuries. It may be due to we're still trying to figure things out. It may be the fact that they change up each week to try to match the team that they're playing. Um, but I mean, I so far Stuart Downing has played in 5 games. Kouyaté has played in 5 games. Mark Noble has played in 5 games, and those are the only midfielders that they have listed that have played in every single game. Um, in fact, I'm looking at this, and it looks like those are the only 3 midfielders that they've been playing at all. Uh, so maybe they're doing more of a 3 midfield system. I don't know. I haven't watched them because I haven't cared to watch them yet. This will be my first time to actually care to pay attention to them.
So I should say, I mean, you mentioned that you didn't think of West Ham as an attacking team, and that's fair enough for recent. But West Ham is one of those teams that likes to look tradition, and they think of themselves as a team that can play. So Big Sam is, while Big Sam is sometimes not liked wherever he goes because of the type of football that he plays. But back in the 60s, Bobby Moore played there, and actually West Ham won the Cup Winners' Cup. That was before there was a Europa League and a Champions League, back when there was the Cup Winners' Cup and the European Cup, and both were knockout tournaments. But they won that, and they have 3 FA Cups under their belt. Of course, the last one is in 1980, so it's been a while since they were good, basically.
Yeah.
Um, but they do like to think of themselves as, and it's interesting because Aston Villa won the European Cup, which I think was a more prestigious tournament, more recently than West Ham won the European Cup. I mean, like 16 years more recently than West Ham won the Cup Winners' Cup. But I don't ever hear people talk about sort of like Aston Villa's, being like a traditional. Maybe it's because they're not a London club, and West Ham is a London club, so they just sort of get the media bias, just like New York teams do in the U.S. I don't know. What are your thoughts, just briefly, on the sort of that tradition with Villa and West Ham?
Yeah, I could definitely see what you alluded to being a London club, because you never hear anything about Villa winning that cup, um, and you hear more. I don't know if you hear anything about West Ham recently, winning stuff because they haven't won anything since 1980. Um, but I think there is this when they're mentioned that's kind of, brought up with more prestige and not like oh, look, it's just West Ham. Like they're not frowned upon in the Premier League, even though they've been kind of on that mid to low side of the table for several seasons now. And that could have something to do with the bias. We know it's definitely evident here with the New York teams and the Knicks. Always talking about the Knicks in the NBA about, what can the Knicks do? Well, the Knicks suck. Okay, get over it. And I don't know if that has anything to do equatable to West Ham. I wouldn't say that they suck, but if
Well,
they're
they did
not
get
good,
relegated not too long ago. Which...
yeah. So they're not, not good. So let's say what it is. If they're not good, however, this season we could say Aston Villa's got 10 points so far, and
Again, I mean, that was Southampton last year, and what did Southampton end up finishing? Like 10th, 8th, something?
yeah,
I mean, you just haven't played
I know.
everybody. And I mean, obviously you don't play anybody until mid-season, but after a while you sort of get a good judge on teams. And I just don't think we're there yet with any of the teams. I mean, I
No, I
mean,
mean,
maybe Chelsea, but aside from Chelsea, I'm not convinced that anybody is, where they're going to be at the end of the season.
well, yeah. I mean, it definitely is going to change quite a bit. I mean, because you got teams that have, I'm looking at teams that have played only 4 games so far, and I mean, you can tell this isn't going to be the end all be all of the season because you got Southampton and Aston Villa and Swansea in the top 4. Um, who had that? If the betting odds, if they bet on those 3 in the top 4, you put $100 down on that, you could probably be a millionaire. Um, so it's going to change a lot. I mean, it constantly changes. Liverpool was in first place going into like the holiday break, or not break, but the holidays last year, and then lost 2
The
straight
very much
games.
not break.
Yeah, the holiday. Let's play more games. Um, and then they were like, I don't know, they dropped to like fifth or something because they lost 2 straight games in a row, and then they got back up to first, and then finished in second. So I mean, there hasn't been enough games played, and Villa, Swansea. I don't think Swansea's really played anybody so far. I haven't looked at their schedule.
Well, other than Chelsea, but they got hammered by Chelsea. So
Right. Well, they won their other 3 games, but it looks like they just lost to Southampton. Um, so,
oh yeah, I didn't even bother to check this morning's scores.
well, I watched part of the early game, Stoke and QPR in 2-2. And let me just say, while we're talking about that, it is weird to see Ferdinand in a QPR jersey, um, and that he is still playing.
Well, I was gonna say, yeah, I think that's the weirder thing than, um, yeah. Why did he not retire? I don't know, but I guess if he enjoys it, then
Then keep going.
yeah. I'm looking at the scores now, and I'm not to the EPL scores yet, but Real Madrid hung 8 on Deportivo. No, they gave up 2 as well, but still,
Yeah.
8-2. So Arsenal took it to Aston Villa 3-0.
Oh, was that? Oh, yeah, that was this afternoon. I was like, I knew there was one big team that played this afternoon, but I couldn't remember who it was.
Well, it was this morning. I guess it depends on
Well,
the time zone you're in. I happen to know you're on Eastern time zone.
yes. So it was still morning. I guess now it's the afternoon.
Yes,
Uh,
it is.
let's see here. So I think the Premier League, the Barclays website has the updated standings from the early games. I think they try to update it as fast as possible.
Do they do that like running standings thing? Because I hate
I don't
that.
think so.
That is so annoying.
Well, I like the ability to go back and forth because it's like if the games ended right now, which they're not, but this is what would it look like if the games ended right now,
Yeah.
and so you get an idea of, oh man, we really need this goal, or else we could be falling to fifth instead of staying in second.
Right.
So I like that as an idea, but I don't want it solely to be that. I want the ability to go back and forth.
I'm pretty sure that's what ESPN's used to be. That it was they gave teams points before they had earned them, which I found obnoxious.
Yes.
Um, so we should say while we're talking about other teams and other games that tomorrow's games are Leicester United at 8:30 Eastern. The Spurs play West Brom also at 8:30 Eastern. Everton plays Crystal Palace at 11 a.m. Eastern. And I should have just said all times in Eastern, but I didn't. And City plays Chelsea. That's the big game of the weekend.
That is the big
at
game.
11 Eastern. So, um, aside from the Liverpool West Ham game, which is obviously a huge game as well.
Now, I just love looking at this table that Villa is in third place with 10 points, or tied with 10, tied on points with second place, but has a goal differential of 0 in third
Well,
place.
when you win your games 1-0 and then you lose a game 3-0.
Yeah,
That's
that's how it's done.
that's math.
Yep.
Yeah, so even after the loss today, Swansea is still in third. Or actually, I don't think I don't think ESPN has updated their
They
table.
haven't.
Or the
Swansea's in fifth.
I was gonna say that doesn't look right that they've won
No,
the
they're in fifth.
So I'll have to look that up. So we're getting pretty close to game time. Um, I wanted to ask you. So I was planning on leaving this running. I don't know if you're going to have to go into the other room if we want to. I mean, we can still just leave it running, and then people tell people, well, at the 45-minute mark is where we're going to. They can just skip ahead. Technology allows people to do that. So
That's true. What about the can you take it off air and then back on air at 45?
I don't think I can. What I can do is I can make another hangout, but I don't want anybody that's stopped by now to have to go find another link to go back to Twitter and find the new halftime show. Actually, there might be a way to say like coming back shortly or something like
I
that.
would think so. If there's an ability to go live, there should be an ability to take a break.
I'll see what I can do. You can talk about Liverpool stuff while I'm looking that up.
Okay, I'm just going back to the show notes. So we haven't talked about their transfers. Ridley, I've talked about Balotelli. They've also got Moreno. I really like Moreno. Um, But the fact is that they're seemingly playing with Moneyball tactics. For those of y'all who know the Oakland A's and the Moneyball, is that they like to buy these young players who are unproven and not spend as much money as bigger clubs that go and try to buy players. Just for example, like Manchester United spending money for Di Maria and Falcao. Um, Liverpool likes to, at least right now, buy the young talent, try to groom them, um, and hopefully in a few years they will be, the stars of tomorrow. And so he's one of those players that I think, given a couple of years, will be a great player. But as far as right now, he's not there. But that's who they're choosing to start, and so that's why, they're going to not be as good as last year, is because people know what to expect from them this year as opposed to last year, and they don't have Suarez this year. Um,
So I didn't want to interrupt you, but I'm going to now. So we are 51 seconds into the game. It does look like I can put a "We'll be right back. Please stand by." I don't know that I can put a custom message. I'm gonna throw this "We'll be right back" message on. We'll be back at halftime. Evan, you can run into the other room, and if I can put up a, you know, personal message, then I will do that. So I
all
know we
right.
have one viewer, so thanks for watching.
Yes.
All right, so and did West Ham just score? Yes, West Ham just scored. Are you still there? Nope. You gotta. Mm-hmm. Ooh.
Left.
All right, and this is my first time using this, but we should be back. Evan has actually dropped off here, so I'm gonna try to get him back. I think that it it lined him up with his uh, school account again, so um, I guess we'll see if he's able to sort all of that out. So if you're just now joining us, it's 3-1 at halftime, or not 3-1. I was thinking it was going to be 3-1 because West Ham was pressing at the end, but it is 2-1 at halftime. And I just sent the link out on GNU Social, which should go to Twitter as well. So if you're joining us, thanks again for joining that. And I am going to try to get Evan back on. And while we're waiting for him to do that, then I will tell you, well, I will give the people that are just listening a little bit of a heads up of what's coming up. So we are still looking for Aston Villa, Burnley, Everton, Hull, Leicester City, Newcastle, QPR, Southampton, Stoke, Sunderland, Swansea, and West Brom. And on October 4th, we will be talking Southampton. October 25th, we will be doing Burnley, Leicester, QPR. On November 8th, we'll be doing an MLS season review and playoff preview. On November 22nd, we'll be doing the Iron Bowl preview, and the Iron Bowl is the Alabama-Auburn annual game. On December 6th, we'll be talking about conference championships, or potentially we'll be talking about Stoke City if we're able to get a Stoke City supporter to come with us. And I think that means that Evan is back. Hello, Evan.
I'm back.
So did you intentionally drop off, or did it just disconnect you?
I thought I had plugged up the laptop, and I had not, and the battery died.
So I found out that actually, even when you put up the broadcast alert, it doesn't actually turn off the stream.
I did see that. We were still live.
Yeah, so I was not really paying attention. But so I ended up muting my mic once I realized that. So for the second half, that's what I'll do. I'll mute my mic, so just so we don't get any weird copyright problems with the NBC broadcast, because I noticed that it was picking up some of that. So let's go ahead and jump on in to the half. There was, wow, that was quite the half.
That was quite the half. It was 50-plus minutes of half.
Yeah. Yeah, in more ways than one, it was quite the half. So, yeah. So the early goal just unmarked in the, within 2 yards of the goal.
Yeah.
No biggie.
Well, it looked like once the ball had gone over everybody's heads, that means that we don't have to mark them anymore because they can't head the ball anymore because it went over their head. Who knew that somebody could head the ball back across the goal to somebody who was wide open? Who knew that?
Yeah. Yeah. The next point that I made in my notes here was that West Ham started off man-marking Gerrard, which is something that Villa also did to great effect.
Yes. Well, he is what they compare to a quarterback in that role, where he can normally just sit and kind of look and see what do I want to happen, what kind of pass do I want to make, and he can sit far enough back where teams that aren't pressing high, it's not a big issue. Well, teams have realized this and said, well, if we can prevent Gerard from kind of being the maestro, it's going to unsettle them and force them to play a little bit differently than they want to, force other players to kind of make the passes. And so far this game, there's been some bad passes from Liverpool, just giveaways. And I'm like, well, if you're gonna just give the ball away, just kick it further up the field. I mean, um, I don't know if that has to do with those players just don't have the skill to make those passes, or if they just aren't on the same wavelength. Because we had, you know, Lovren in there. We went to a back three where Sterling was on a right wing defender. Um, so yeah, things got weird for Liverpool.
Yeah. So the second goal, the announcer on NBC said that Minilo had no chance. To me, that's just a garbage. Like, he could have tried to get a touch on it, even if, he doesn't get it up over the bar and he pushes it out in front of the goal. That gives the Liverpool defenders
Hmm.
a chance to clear it. But he just stood there and let it go over his head. I don't understand. It wasn't like the ball. It wasn't a Dempsey ball that was like literally in like that. There were like no inches between the bar and the post. I don't know. I assume you remember the goal that Dempsey scored
Yes.
against Juventus in the Europa League a few
Yes.
years ago. There, that was a goal where the keeper did not have a chance. This goal was miles away from that. Not literally. Well, it was also literally miles away from that, but also figuratively. So Mignolet has been under some pressure. What are your thoughts on Mignolet in general, but also for this game?
I I never have been a full Mignolet fan. I was a huge Pepe Reina fan, but it seemed like his last season there at Liverpool, he wasn't quite the goalkeeper he had been. I don't know if that's just because the defense was worse, or if he had lost, some of his touch. I can't remember that season very well to know if it was more the defense or more him. Um, and so I was like, well, somebody different than Reyna would be nice. Mignolet, I've heard good things about him. He came in, but I mean, last season, the defense wasn't very good. He gave up over 50 goals. So, could he have saved some of those? Probably. We can't just say it was all the defense. Although, you know, being having played goalkeeper in the past, and you'll allude to this too, is the goalkeeper doesn't want any of the fault, and oftentimes if the person's wide open, there's not much a goalkeeper can do about it. Um, they can be in the correct position, they can guess the correct side, they can come out when they need to, but if the guy's open for a shot, that's the defense's fault for not, closing down fast enough.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And that's not to say that the shooter in this particular goal could not. I believe it was Sacco. Um,
yes,
he could have been closed down more quickly. So there
yes.
is that, but it was like Minolet was already like ready to shout as his defender before the play was over. Like, yeah, sure, you got to close that down sooner, but you still have a job to do. Like, don't check out just because you're pissed off at your defender.
Right, and I mean, I can't remember the play well enough to know if he could have gotten a touch to it or not. Um, I also don't know if we had a good enough camera angle to know, but he didn't even track back to try.
Right, exactly, yeah. And the other thing is that I mean it just looked bad because Valencia was on the back post and he was unmarked. Now he ended up not touching it, and it's possible that he was offsides, and they didn't show it because didn't touch it, so it
I
didn't
think
matter.
when they
But
showed the replay, I double checked that just to see, hey, he was a part of that play, even though he didn't touch it. Was he offsides? It looked like he had kind of changed or slowed his run just a step or two to get back onsides by a little bit. At least made it closer than it appeared. I think he was onside, but I mean it doesn't matter because it wasn't called. But yeah, he was unmarked.
well, I don't think in that case he's really involved. I mean, he wasn't blocking the goalkeeper's
Right.
view. I mean, unless he touches it, I think. I think that's the right call, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, he was there, but he wasn't really involved. Um, so lots of things that could have done. I mean, even if Valencia wasn't there, why is a defender not tracking back and trying to get that out of the back of the goal? I mean, maybe he thinks Minole is gonna, he doesn't want to run into Minole, but I guess I feel like you've got to go for it and wait for your keeper to call you off, or wait until you see him there. Just standing there and watching it and letting somebody else make the play doesn't seem like a very good idea.
That was the time. I think at that point that was no, it hadn't changed yet. So that should have been Manquillo's side, and he's still growing and learning, but still, I mean, you can't let the guy just have a free run like that.
Yeah. So on the other side, we had some interesting goalkeeping decisions as well. Strictly speaking, in the clash with Balotelli and Adrian. So Adrian definitely should have been sent off. I mean, he kicked Balotelli.
Yes.
But I don't know. I might have sent off Balotelli too. It was pretty late, and it was from the blind side of the keeper.
And it was on a keeper.
Yeah, so if you blindside a player like that, it's probably a yellow card, not a red card. Yeah, but a keeper, I mean, it's just a fact that they get a little more protection back there. It was definitely late. I mean, but the flip side of it is that he's just going for the ball. I don't think there was any, it was like.
Yeah, I don't. From Balotelli, I don't think there was any ill intent other than going from the ball, and then it turned into that.
Yeah, and I think Adrian was trying to bait Balotelli into retaliating, and Balotelli didn't, to his credit. But and whether or not he was trying to bait him by kicking him and then getting in his face, I don't know. I mean, if all he had done was get in his face, maybe I wouldn't have sent him off. Even though I don't actually know what the, if that's actually a sendable off offense, being aggressive that's not violent, getting in somebody's face. So, I mean, obviously you can be sent off for violent contact, but sort of like prodding a player. I know that so it can be like in Brazil, basically, like players will get yellow carded for like doing too many tricks because it's considered taunting.
Yeah, taunting.
That's a little bit different than taunting, though. So I don't know. I mean, definitely the keeper should have been sent off. Balotelli probably about right with the yellow. And that definitely would have changed the complexion of the game.
Yeah,
and then Mark Noble goes back there and basically tells Adrian he's to keep his head. He's being
I saw that because I was curious I had looked down for a minute and knew like the keeper had the ball, and then all of a sudden I'd looked down and I thought it was just going to be a simple clear out, and that was going to be it because that's normally how those things go. Then I looked up and I see Balotelli and the goalkeeper going at it, and I'm like, what just happened? And I see the West Ham player running in, to get not at Balotelli but to get at his own player. And at that point, I'm like, well, the goalkeeper did something wrong, and he did when I saw the replay. And I think that if it is bad enough for your own teammate to run back and say, keep your head, don't lose it like that, then that maybe it should have been a red card offense.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is like, in slow motion, sometimes things either look not as bad or worse. And maybe it's just sort of like a get off of me sort of kick. I mean, it's still a kick, but like it's not the same as like stomping on somebody.
Right.
Or just like flat, kicking them. You're standing up and you just kick them. That actually happened in my league game on Wednesday night. Now, I don't know if the guy was just trying to clear the ball and missed, but one of our players just got like straight kicked in the knee, and it was like right at the end of the game, and it was not pleasant. No one got tossed. I don't know how close to the actual end of the game that the game was. I know it was close, but the official just called it. And that was probably a good idea. I mean, it was at the end of the game, so he's tired. Maybe he's just late. I don't know, but that was Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but everything we just talked about all happened before the 20th minute.
Yes. Then
We
we had Lovren, and Sacco not talk to each other and
yeah.
headbutt each other and took Lovren out. Okay, so did Lovren have a concussion and come back in?
I don't know if he did or not. They look to be stabilizing his neck. So that's not necessarily something you'd be doing for a concussion protocol.
Yeah.
That would be like if he had whiplash or something, or maybe they were concerned about him having like broken his neck or something. And once they figured out that his neck once I think they figured out that he just had whiplash
Yeah.
and that he didn't have a broken neck, then um, then they probably let him clear him to play. I don't know. Have you ever had like a back injury or a neck injury? Not like a, but like a. Actually, it looks like we are about
Okay.
ready for kickoff,
Yeah.
so we can discuss the second 35 minutes at the end of the game, as long as the rest of the 45 minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn the sound back on, but then I'm gonna mute my mic, and we'll see everybody at halftime.
All right. See you then.
All right, we are back, except I don't have my light on, so I am going to go fix that while we wait on Evan to make it back into the bedroom or the office or wherever he's recording. All right, so that ended 3-1, and Evan is sitting down, it looks like.
Okay, sound check.
We are back live, Evan, and we can hear you.
Good,
So,
good.
I wanted to mention two things before we jump into the second half, or if we want to go back to the first half. Um, I realized that I should embed these all in the same place. The last time when we did this for the World Cup final, I did 3 separate entries and just had the pages there for people to watch there. But I realized I should make a sportazine.com/live. So by the time we do this again, presumably by 20 minutes after we finish the show, I'll have set up sportazine.com/live, and whenever we do live shows in the future, I'll embed the YouTube link onto there so people can just go to sportazine.com/live. I also wanted to mention, I don't know if like 2:30 is just the default MLS time or what, but I had on my calendar that there was going to be another game on NBC after the Liverpool game, but it looks like that's not the case. The New York Seattle game is tonight, and it's on NBC Sports. It's not on NBC. But the MLS Stream of the Week is tonight. It's LA Galaxy versus FC Dallas, and that's at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So Night Owls and West Coasters can pick that up. So what should we do? Should we go start at the beginning of the second half, or should we go back to where we left off in the first half?
We can just do the second half.
All right. So the first thing that I did think of this briefly in the first half, but it came more apparent in the second half that Barini was really needed with the Sturridge injury. And I guess on the same point, why was Jenkinson allowed to leave Arsenal? He's on loan at West Ham. It seems like Arsenal could have used him on their back line. But what are your thoughts on Barini? I mean, basically that he was told to go out on loan, and he was like, nope, and it's worked out for him, it seems.
Well, I think that, they wanted him to get some first-team experience somewhere, and they just thought you're not going to get it here because of, I don't know what the mindset of Brendan Rodgers was, if he was planning on playing Sturridge and Lampert up top before they bought Balotelli, or if he was hoping for a big signing that just didn't happen, and then he ended up getting Balotelli. But it seemed like there wasn't much of a game plan for the replacement of Suarez, and so then it seemed like, okay, we'll just go with Sturridge up top, a one-striker system, which, at that point would have left Barini probably in third because Lampert would have been second. And so they were like, look, you're just not going to get enough experience here, enough first-team, minutes, so go somewhere else to find it. And he said, no, I think I can compete here, and rightly so. Lampert has been pretty awful. Balotelli, as far as in Premier League games, has been pretty awful. And so why not throw him out there? I don't think Barini was bad. He didn't really do much of anything. Neither did Balotelli today, although Balotelli pulling the ball down led to Sterling's goal, so much like how he scored against the team in the Champions League. He's going to get chances because Lampert and Balotelli right now, neither of them are where they need to be, and I think Liverpool wants to play a two-striker system where that be more of one up top and one kind of slightly behind, more as like not an attacking midfielder, but kind of like an attacking midfielder. Just slightly behind the lead striker is what I think they did last year with Suarez and Sturridge. And so that two-striker system, well, they need plenty of strikers to do that, and Barini looks like to be the second best on the team, or, well, third best second best if you don't count Sturridge, who's out due to injury. Um, and so I think it was smart of him. I think he said, look, I can see these scenarios where I'm going to get lots of playing time here, so I'm just going to stay here because this is where I want to be.
And Barini was involved in one aspect of the game that I wanted to mention. It was a really physical game, and Adrian was sort of involved. Not there. It wasn't really there was no tussle or anything, but Adrian sort of led with his leg, and Barini ran into him. I don't know that Adrian is really at fault there.
It did. It was a high leg, and it did look like studs up. Which, if you had a player doing that, you could almost say that was red card as high as his studs were.
Oh yeah, I mean you can't just. But it wasn't a slide tackle. The ball wasn't at Barini's feet. The ball was in Adrian's hands.
Right. But I mean, you still can't just go sliding around with your studs up. And I know it wasn't a slide tackle or anything, but should be frowned upon to have your studs that high in the air.
Yeah, but Barini's got to get out of the way.
Yeah, I think it's on Barini just to kind of know that he's not going to make it in time. But at that point, they're chasing the game, hoping to make something happen.
Yeah, I mean, I paid a lot of attention to try to figure out on a replay if Adrian was looking or what was going on. But I mean, you are taught as a goalkeeper to lead with your legs to protect yourself. Now that's more on like when you're going to get crosses and stuff, and not so much in a position like that. But it still sort of was like, I don't know. Barini didn't have to come off or anything, so it seemed like it wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah, it looked like it could have been worse than it really was.
So another player that did have to come off though was Song. Was there an injury to Song? I seem to miss why Song was coming off. Is he just not quite 100% match fit yet, or?
Yeah, maybe. I'm trying to think. I know. Who was it? Was it Sacco came down on somebody's ankle? But I don't know if that was Song or not.
No, that was after Song went off. Song went off at like the 68th minute. That was I can't remember who that was.
But did they replace Song with a sub? They did, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was after they had used all of their subs.
Right.
I don't know what time that was, but I do know that they said that they didn't have any subs left. It could be. I mean, when did Song just arrive, or has he been there since the start of the season?
No, he was late. But he would have been training with Barcelona. You would have thought. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, but was he getting? Was he playing? Full intent, full speed all the time with Barcelona in training? Because I mean, his minutes probably weren't.
The thing is that when you go through a preseason, you have to be like 8 of the players, so 7 and the goalkeeper, have to be ready to play 90 minutes during the first game. Like there's no way around that. So I don't really understand all players are not fit. I mean, unless he was coming back from an injury or something. I mean, he did go to the World Cup with Cameroon, but they exited pretty early. So the other thing that I don't understand is why people can't play 2 games a week. I play 2 games a week. I mean, I'm not at the intensity of the Champions League or the English Premier League, but I mean, still, it seems like 2 games a week is not that big of a deal. I don't know. I mean, I'm 31 years old. Most of these guys are younger than I am. They need to suck it up.
I wonder if it has anything to do with if they're not regularly playing 2 games a week and their body's just on like this cycle of, being ready once a week, and if you throw in that second game, it kind of interrupts their natural rhythm of things more than it's a fitness. They just can't play 2 games during a week. Because I mean, usually you got 2 days off in between games, and I know how FIFA doesn't like to do that because they don't understand, and they'll schedule games on 2 games in 3 days. Typically, that doesn't happen in the real world, and so you still have 48 hours to get prepped for the next game, which should be plenty of time. I understand if there's like some knocks and some injuries, but if you're just tired after a game, you should be ready to go in the
Yeah.
next game.
This is I was looking here at the score line on ESPN FC, and Atletico, who was beaten by Olympiacos, and we discussed via Twitter in the Champions League, they are drawing with Celtic Vigo in the 33rd minute. So lots of time there, but the struggles looking like they might be continuing for Atletico.
Yeah. And I mean, they did lose. They lost their goalkeeper, lost a striker, lost some defenders, so
Right.
they're just not going to be
Chelsea.
the
All,
same
all of
caliber.
those just to Chelsea.
Yes. Well, hold on. Did Mourinho or Manquillo not from Atletico went to Liverpool? I thought one of those.
Oh well, but Luis, the Brazilian left
Oh
back,
yes,
was
and the
so
striker and the goalkeeper were all
right.
Chelsea players.
Yeah, so there may have been additional defenders going elsewhere, but um, yeah, there was that. Another thing that we mentioned in the first half, it might have been before the game, but I mentioned Noble. I think it was before the game. So he was the captain today, but Nolan is normally their captain. So
He's just
talking about
yeah, he was out.
yeah.
No.
So the right now the Nolan being out sort of means that there is no sort of central midfield crisis at West Ham. But when Nolan comes back, it'll be interesting to see what they um, end up deciding to do. So we had fewer goals. I mean, I think in general there was less incident in the second half than there was in the first. But on the third goal, it seemed to me that the Liverpool midfield was just caught ball watching. I mean, I don't think it was Sacco, the Liverpool Sacco, right? There's a
They
Sacco.
gave the ball away. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
Sacco.
yeah. That's confusing because there's a
There's a
Sacco
Sacco for
also.
both teams.
Yes. Um, but when you head the ball into the middle of the field like that, you got to expect there's going to be a midfielder there. I mean, it was kind of a half close. I mean, maybe he should have put it more up the field. I mean, in hindsight, obviously he should have, but I don't think it was a particularly bad header coming from him. It was just there was no one there in
There
that
was
part
no
of the
one
field.
around. I mean, they broke. It looked at that point. I can't remember if it basically looked like a 4-on-3, the way the positioning of the players was, which didn't bode well, and it didn't end up ending well.
Yeah.
Led to another goal where Mignolet just kind of, didn't even try. I mean, I know he probably couldn't have gotten to this
Okay.
one,
Yeah.
but
On that one, I think. I
he
mean, it's not
probably
the.
had no idea or no ability to get to it. But I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean the thing about the lofted floater is you've got some time to like make it happen, but like Middle is coming out, to cut down the angle, and then he just pokes it past him, and like,
was he coming out? I thought he was kind of on a
well, he
spot.
wasn't like charging out, but he was moving out, and he was close enough by the time the ball was hit to where he couldn't have really done much. I mean, the ball was past him by the time he could have reacted to do anything about it. So, I think in that case it was just, either luck or really good finishing, maybe both. I mean, but it was just a toe poke into like that edge that Minole was not gonna get to. I mean, maybe if he was like super, quick to react, he could have gotten a foot to it or something. But there's no way he's getting a hand to that because he's just not gonna get down.
Yeah.
Enough.
While I'm thinking about it, I don't really remember him making any spectacular saves, like, ever.
Ever. He was known as a good shot stopper at, was it Sunderland or was it Stoke? I can't remember.
Oh, gosh. I thought he was at Sunderland.
He
I
was
think
known
I
as a
read.
shot stopper, if I remember correctly. And he stopped some shots that were probably going out of bounds in the game today, but
He's, well,
he didn't look.
he's got quick reactions and quick reflexes. So if there's a ball that's low that's kind of near him, he can save it pretty quickly. But like I'm talking about just like saves that you'll remember him making. I don't really just recall a save that he would make that was just, oh my gosh, how did he do that? Other than the quick, like, you know, my reflexes, I knew where the ball was going and happened to stick my foot out in time and parry the the ball out of bounds or something. Um, I don't know.
Well,
This
the
stuff.
other thing is, and I don't know. I mean, I was not impressed with Minole today necessarily, but you don't necessarily want your keeper making, spectacular saves.
Well, you
If
want them to have the ability to if
Well,
it's called
absolutely,
upon them.
yeah. But I mean, if you're positioned well, normally you should not be having to make spectacular saves. I mean, it's hard. I mean, because the ball's moving around side to side, so to be able to get from one side to the other, I mean, sometimes you have to, but it's not. Even if it's no fault of the goalkeepers, you don't really want your goalkeeper having to make spectacular saves.
Right. It was Sunderland. He was there for 2010, 2013.
So,
He's only
um,
20. He's only 26, which is a baby for goalkeeper years. So, I mean, he's got a long career ahead of him. Um, but this is his fifth season in the Premier League, and he's just started playing for. He's made 14 appearances for Belgium. Um, so I don't know. We probably just haven't seen the best of him yet in his career.
so we can come back to the Liverpool West Ham game, but you wrote in the notes here about FIFA 15 coming
Oh,
out on
yes.
Tuesday, so I wanted to make sure we gave you a chance to talk a little bit about that.
Well, I downloaded the demo. It's weird how the demo comes out only a few weeks before the game these days. They used to release them a long time beforehand. I guess just because they were still prepping the game and trying to get some of the squads right. The demo comes with about 8 teams on it. Man City, Chelsea, Liverpool, PSG. Um, has Bayern? I think Dortmund's on there. I don't know about Munich, but Dortmund's on there. Boca Juniors is on there, and there's probably an eighth team, but I can't remember who it is. So I'm gonna guess. Oh, Barcelona's on there. That's probably the eighth team. So 3 Premier League teams out of the 8, and there might be 10, but I think there's only 8. Um, and you get to see their early rankings of the players and their positioning, but this is before the end of the transfer window, so Balotelli's not on there. Some of the other players aren't on there. So the teams aren't set to what they are now. And so I'm playing it on the 360, where these games are kind of geared towards the new generation. So there's a lot of the things that if you watch the videos on FIFA 15 that aren't there, like the players' memories, the field, remembering like all the footsteps of all the players, like those aren't there. Um, the crowd is a
So
little
what
bit.
what about the players' memories? I haven't looked at FIFA 15 at all, so
So they've tried to build in this thing. So like uh, if Martin Skirtle makes like a hard tackle on Sergio Aguero, and like there's this kind of tussle between the teams, then the players will remember that event happened. But each player now has like an emotional state or like an emotional level. Um, which I think they can do in the next gen, but they can't do on the older versions just because it would cause the game to run slow or lag or something. They just can't do it. Um, might not be enough memory. I'm not sure. And so I don't know what this means. Like if there's another tackle, or if those 2 players go at it again, if it's like more likely to be a tough tackle, or what. Like I don't know what it means, and I can't play it, so I don't know what the experience is. Experience is. Um, the and just the things that they use to kind of make it more realistic aren't there because they just can't do it. They've improved the crowd a little bit as far as in the demo, uh, so that they're not always jumping around screaming, and they don't look like they're a 2D image in a 3D world like they sometimes did in FIFA 14. Um, so they look better, but it's still that, computer programming, the same fan looks like he could be the same person 2 rows back and a little far over. Um, so it just looks like the same image if you keep going left or right. Uh, better, but still not perfect. Again, I don't know if that's something that they did differently. The actual play, they let you demo some of the teams for FIFA Ultimate Team. So you can play with like a Premier League team with 100 chemistry, some Premier League. There is a Premier League team, but mostly they're mixed. So you could have like a Premier League and a La Liga team with a bunch of like South American players and Spanish players, and it'll somehow have a chemistry of 100. I'm not sure how, but they made it work. Um, and it's, the same kind of thing. There's nothing in there about the loaned players that they're going to do for FIFA 15, so you don't know how that's going to work. They show you, but they don't say this is how it works. Um, the play is, I think the play is more realistic than FIFA 14. I haven't played it enough to know if it's fully worth an upgrade. If you're still on the PS3 or the Xbox 360. If you like the players being updated, then yes, it's certainly worth it. And the leagues being updated, and it does look aesthetically a little bit better. I think they've tried to fix their physics engine a little bit so that you don't have one player's leg going through the leg of another player. I think they fixed that a little bit, but the problem that they did if I think it's the same as in Madden, is that players don't realize when they shouldn't try to like kick the ball out because they're going to hit the other player and it's going to cause them to kind of twist and tumble and fall over, where in real life they're like, if I do this I might get injured, so I'm just not going to do it. But in the game they'll do it, and you'll just see like people like fall over each other every now and then. I'm like, that never happens.
Right.
But again, it's not I'm just going to kick, player A is going to slide tackle player B, and they're going to do a move, and somehow the ball's going to go through a player. So like that doesn't happen as far as I can tell. And they've also revamped the tackling system, because they used to, like, if you could slide tackle in 14, you'd usually just poke the ball away to another player of the other team, and it would kind of defeat the purpose. They fixed that a little bit, at least now that it's more of a you can get up off the ground and actually go get the ball after you slide tackle somebody. So it's better, and we'll see. I'm getting it on Tuesday, the day it comes out, and so I'll see, if there's any other nuances or new things that I haven't noticed yet.
Cool. So we got a fair amount of notes here, but there are at least two things that I want to cover before we go. And one of those is, well, first, before we move on, was there anything else on the demo? It sounded like you were pretty much done with that.
Yeah, that was. They do have some new, for those people interested, some new skill games, just to kind of change it up from last year. Same, similar things, but there are some new and different ones.
And I wanted to ask why that Liverpool has not played in the Capital One Cup yet. I know that their entry is coming in. Is that because they were seated higher, or was the game moved because of Champions League or something?
I just thought they were seated higher. I haven't
Okay.
looked at that yet.
Because West Ham is out of the Capital One Cup, as is United, because they played a few weeks ago, so before the international break. So yeah, I was just curious about that. So the other thing that I wanted to briefly mention here was our fantasy league. So you've not had a good week so far in week 5.
I haven't had a good week
Earlier
yet.
earlier you had -1. Now you have 1. um, so
I do have a lot of players playing tomorrow, but I should have had more than 1 point so far.
yeah. So I don't know who Muna Folly 42 is, but they're at 99.9 percentile in our league. Last week they had a 92, so that really helped them out. I'm sitting in second right now, followed by Nate, who was our Spurs representative on our first show of the season, and then Shay, who was last season's winner, he's in fourth right now. So I mean, it's obviously just a week 5, and week 5's not even over, but that's where we are right now. So um, we'll see what happens with that. So, do you want to go through any of the rest of these notes that we have? I'll just leave the notes in. We've got some things like the Liverpool transfers and the West Ham transfers, or our post season preview. So we did EPL season preview in episode 1 of the Free Culture Sports Show, but there were some transfers after that, and we hadn't talked about those. So I'm just going to leave those on there, unless you want to talk about some of them. I mean, we've already talked about some of them, like we briefly talked about Moreno and Balotelli, and Rania as well. But
it sounded to me from the commentators that Valencia was a pickup this year as well. Would they pick him up last year, or was he new to West Ham this year?
He moved after the World Cup.
So he did. The move was after the World Cup.
Yes.
But it wasn't post preview.
No, I already knew about the transfer.
Okay.
I don't remember that if we talked about it because, I mean, it's hard to know if somebody coming out of the Mexican League is really going to make a big difference. And he was all right in the World Cup. I mean, he was actually pretty good in the World Cup, but Ecuador went out so early that, you didn't really get to see him play all that much. Just the 3 group stage games. So.
Well, between him, Sacco, and Song, who Song's on a loan, those players seem to be making a big impact there. I mean, at least a big in this game. I haven't really seen them so far this whole season, but in this game they were big players. I know that was Sacco's second goal, so at least he scored one beforehand. Song's playing, and Valencia seemed to be all over the field today too. So
yeah, Valencia had a rocket strike that everybody was talking about in one of their games. I think it was in a cup match, but I'm not sure which cup. Has the FA Cup started yet?
No, it starts. Well, it has, but not to the level that we should care.
Yeah, so I'm assuming it was Capital One Cup, but it wasn't played when, back when United lost before they realized that they needed to get some players, and then they got some players. They got all the players. Yes. Actually, they didn't get all the players because they didn't get any defenders, but that's a story for another day.
I'll just outscore everybody.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. It worked in one game against a terrible QPR side, so I don't know how much we can take from that. So the last thing that I want to really talk about here is just to get a sense of where you think Liverpool is headed for the year after a few games, because the season has definitely not started off like people thought that it might. I mean, a lot of people thought that they would struggle with Champions League, but they've only played one Champions League game. The Champions League is not the problem. I mean, the Sturridge injury is part of the problem, but teams have injuries. I mean, you've got to plan. You've got to assume that somebody's going to get hurt. So,
I think that Brendan Rodgers thinks he knows what he's doing, but he has no idea what he's really doing. I mean, he did adapt. He did change the game today in a way where he took Manquillo off and brought on a third center back, where I was kind of like, huh? Why are you doing that? And then I realized, okay, 3-back system, how are we going to make that work? And they did for a while. But he's got all these players that are above average players, not star quality, but above average. And it seems, at least today and so far, other teams have figured this out, that if they just stop Gerrard in that holding role and don't let him kind of dictate the game, Liverpool can't really function very well. And so I don't know if he's going to come up with something to kind of change that. If I honestly, and this kind of sounds like sacrilege, I don't think Gerard should always be starting games. Because I don't like him in that holding role as much as other people do. Um, I think that you can find somebody else to play that, and then focus your ball handling, your maestro, whatever you want to do. Focus that player higher up the pitch um, than how far they have Gerard back, because you know he is right now the one person who can, in the back five, we'll say that can actually make a decent pass out of the back five. Nobody else seems to be able to hit long balls very well. Seems to be able to connect passes very well, and he is. And if he is shut down, they've got issues with the way that they're currently set up. So I think they've got to do some changing and some soul searching. Something about the combination of players just isn't working. I know he didn't have Markovic didn't play, Coutinho didn't play, Lallana came in as a sub, Joe Allen didn't play. And he's got a bunch of above average players that are on the bench, but nobody really that comes in and just changes the game, and that's what's frustrating. Um, is that they have to rely on the system for the system to work, and if because the players themselves aren't making it work. It goes back to what we talked about earlier, where they just don't have somebody who can beat them off the dribble, and Sterling can, but if he plays out wide, it's harder for him to do that. Um, Henderson can't really do that. Lallana maybe can, but he was injured, and I haven't seen enough of him. I think Markovic will be able to. So I would like to see, Markovic and Sterling play at the same time. I know that they both like the right side of the field, so that's going to be a little odd. But I like Sterling in the middle and Markovic on the side. Um, you got to have some sort of combination, and I think if they can get the ball to Sterling in the center of the field, I think he can be that player that can kind of dictate the game. Now he's still young, and so maybe that's a lot to put on his shoulders, but I think he can do it because they don't have anybody else right now that can. Um, and so they've got to find something else that works, because right now it's certainly not working, and it's not just because Sturridge is injured. Um, Defense is still an issue. Possession is still an issue. Attacking is now an issue too, which goes back to their 2009, 2010, 2011 kind of season before Suarez was there, where pretty much all three phases of the game are an issue. And they got to solve some of those problems, or else they're not going to be in Europe next year.
So you think that it's that bad that they'll even miss out on the Europa League?
At this rate, yeah. I mean, some of the teams just look better than them. You've got the normal four of Arsenal, Man U, although they played at the QPR side, with their transfers that they finally brought in, they seem to be moving in the direction that they want to be. So you've got Man City, Chelsea, Arsenal, Man U. Everton looks much better than them. Tottenham, even though they beat Tottenham, could finish better than them. I mean, Leicester has played an awful season because they played Chelsea, Everton, and Arsenal, I think, already. And I've thought that Leicester has looked better than Liverpool at times, just promoted side. So I mean, West Ham was better today. Who knows if they're better in the whole season? But if Liverpool continue to play like they played today, they're going to be mid-table and then 9, 10, 11 slots.
Yeah. So Leicester played Everton, which was a draw, and then lost to Chelsea, then drew Arsenal, and then beat Stoke.
So tied two of the top three teams, or no, not top three, but tied two of the top 6 or 7 teams, lost to another one, and then beat a fairly decent mid-table team probably. So they've had a tough season, and then they've probably made the best of it that they could so far.
Yeah. I don't know if you know the answer to this, but you're talking about missing out on Europe. Do you know how the Europa League, Champions League spot is allocated? Does that come from the association? I would think that it wouldn't, because that's like penalizing the the country that wins the Europa League. You
You
know what I'm
mean
talking about?
the winner of?
Yeah, so starting this year, the winner of the, or maybe it was starting last year, I don't know. But the winner of the Europa League gets an automatic spot into the Champions League.
I would imagine they would not. They would pull that number away from the league that they came from.
So if if Tottenham gets relegated, which I don't think is going to happen, but just theoretically, they get relegated, but they win the Europa League, they're in the Champions League at the expense of Arsenal, who finishes fourth. Let's just say.
Ooh. Or do they take?
So I don't know. I mean, we don't need to sit here and
Yeah.
wonder what it is.
I
But
would think that's what they would do, because I don't think they would want 8 English teams in European football compared to some of the other leagues. So I would think they would take it at the expense of another team.
well, maybe, yeah, I don't know. We'll just have to look it up. It seems unfair to the country that wins the Europa League if they're good enough to do it. But life isn't fair, so maybe it's not that way. So, well, cool. So everybody watching, let us know whether you like this. I think that doing the sportazine.com/live is going to be a big improvement over sort of like having the YouTube links and sending them out. I don't know that we'll get like the stats necessarily on how many people are watching that way, because it'll all look like it's coming from sportazine.com, or if the embed like tracks that properly. I don't know. Ultimately, that doesn't matter. If people give us feedback that they think that's easier and better, it's certainly going to be easier for me to not have to like go to the site and send out the link. It's just the same link to send out all the time. So we'll make sure that happens next time for the well, we won't just do that for when we do a game, but when we do our live show, normally on Saturdays at 10 o'clock U.S. Eastern, that will also be on Sportazine.com live, so it'll be like the place to go to watch the show rather than having to go on YouTube and find a specific link or to find the show page, which I haven't been doing show pages ahead of time anyway, so you had to like get the YouTube link to find it. So I think that'll be a big improvement. Do you have anything else, Evan, before we go?
I think that wraps it up.
All right, so this has been the Free Culture Sports Show. Thanks for watching. And I don't have it up, so